All right, guys. In a way, you can think of this as kind of an old school shave. Kent has been a popular Silvertip brush maker for a long time. I mean, just a popular brush maker. I think they're England based. Pure Silvertip Badger is what this one is called. And Silvertips are so soft that they don't need the bleaching agent that finest badger brushes usually have to employ. And so their tips have a natural softness to them. The shaft of the bristles is very gentle and free-flowing. Sometimes, especially this particular brush, people rate it and consider it more of a floppy type brush, and some people don't like that. And so that's why those people are going to be more likely to enjoy the finest badger brushes. But so that's an older brush. I got it in my early days of shaving, and I'm sure it's been around long before that. That's the BK8 Silvertip. Of course, then Proraso. I got this in my early days. I think my first video shave of this guy was in 2017, but I used it about 6 times at least before that. And this is what I used yesterday as well, and you can see how it's pressed in a little bit more. It doesn't have quite the same gaps. It's still not fully, anchored into the container, but we'll see if we can get it not to flop around too much when we load. The feather, it has 10 uses on it now or so. I did add another mark on there. We're going to try the feather in the Wilkinson sword razor. We also call it the sticky. It's got this polymer here on the navy blue part, and the whole razor was designed by something like Sir Roger Granger. I think Granger is correct, but Roger may be incorrect. I know if you look up one of my previous sticky videos, you'll hear good information about that. He was an industrial designer in England. He designed so many things like nose cones for airplanes and coffee makers and clothes washers, and the taxi cab design that was used in London for many years. Just a really prolific idea man and creator of, he wanted things to be practical and usable, and I really liked that. He wasn't like a Mac or an Apple type designer where it needs to look good first, and then you kind of have to know how to use it to then be able to use it. Sir Granger, if that's the right way to address him, wanted it to be evident how it was to be used, All right, so we'll decide which one of these balms at the end of the shave is what I'll use. Man, I enjoyed that Tuscany yesterday. We'll do the slurry again. This is a Silvertip brush. It's not a really high density brush like some of the finest badgers these days tend to be. And so there's lots of room between the bristles for water. So I know it's going to be great for the slurry method. Let me get my face wet. And this feather blade is going to cut through this one day of growth so easily, especially since yesterday was such a close shave. You do see the oddity behind this handle. This is a goblet-shaped handle. It's a very traditional kind of handle. Looks kind of bring in a visual aid, right? And in this narrow part, I have put these rubber bands and built them up to where it's more grippable to me. I think eventually, I like the knot a lot. I like those bristles. I like how luxury, how plush it feels. And so I'm probably just going to break this thing off and cut it off, which is too bad. But it's a classic type handle, but I just don't enjoy, with my hands, the way my fingers work. It's not comfortable to have this ridge, even though it makes a great holding thing. It's just uncomfortable kind of biting into my fingers, and then my fingers just sit the wrong way when I'm trying to hold this type of shape, this type of handle. The synthetics, the Plasson type synthetics from Maggard razors also use this, the kind of handle like that goblet style, and I don't like those for the same purpose. All right, so the face is wet. This is the Proraso Red, the sandalwood one, and I really love the scent, really do. And because of the scent, I wouldn't mind it if I was stuck on a desert island with just a supply of this, because that's just a great scent. It may not be a super top performer, but it does an adequate job. In Europe, this is super cheap, and so the price per performance is pretty good. But in America, we can do a little, because it costs a little extra to get it over here, we have to pay higher amounts for it, and then it starts to be less appealing because the cost is a little higher than the performance, and there are other options available. However, if you're like me and you just like the scent, then you keep it around. And especially for times like this where I'm testing out my slurry lather method, I want to have it on hand for that type of thing because it is a soap that's used a lot out there. So yeah, I can feel the weight of that water. Let's do a little bit of shaking like that, and then let's go here and just do some loading. Like yesterday, is this, oh, yep, it's starting to turn. So I'm going to squeeze the tub a little so that it won't turn on me. Get a good, because these bristles are very soft, sometimes you have to load longer because of that plush feel and the easy splay. It doesn't pick up soap as quickly as some of the other types of brushes. And so, because of that, you may have to, in general, have longer load times. All right, so I poured the extra water that had gotten into the crevices on the soap there into the bowl. So that's here in suds. You can kind of see it there. But hopefully there's enough soap here on the tips to get a good slurry going. Yeah, there we go. Haven't used a Silvertip in quite a while. I think I went and got my Macedo a few months ago and used it. Okay, now it feels like it's kind of emptied out. So it looks like maybe I should have loaded for a little bit longer. Go back to it. Can't wait till the soap stops moving around. Then it'll load easier. Water won't be taken away. I'm going to dip the tips back in the lather bowl. Yeah, there we go. Easy splay. I mean, yeah, it is floppy, but to me, I don't mind it. Now, sometimes the way the floppy can be negative is that the tips of the brush move away during your movement, or they splay wide so that the sides of the bristles are what's actually working on your face. Sometimes if one is too floppy, then that can happen. And even for people like me, sometimes that's not as enjoyable because it's the tips that really have that softness. All right. I think that the sticky is going to be fine with the feather. And that first run right there agrees with me. Just easily moving through the hair. I do feel the blade, a little bit of audio. Just super fast. Residual slickness is okay. Nice. Okay. A little splash of water. Man, that feather. I just, if you watched the video yesterday, you saw me just kind of giggle, kind of like this, about how quickly the smoothness was achieved with this fresh blade, and I'm not used to that with my, Nasset. Yeah, see, look, there we go. See, the slurry is just fine with both this soap and this brush. is it by the second pass, a lot of times a good slurry lather is starting to come together as a good proper lather. I think that it would if I was to get a consistent load. And so I think that's the main problem right now. There's still that gap. Like when I turn this over to let the slurry into the bowl, on your usual soaps, like with the Chisel Face Midnight Stag, it was just the water on top that would go into the lather bowl, and I'd use that during my shave. But as I've kind of been mentioning, because there are gaps around the edge, there's no longer gaps in the middle like there was yesterday, but the gaps around the edge let water go in there and took the water away from the brush. And so, but then when I turned it over into the bowl, it poured out. So that's how I knew that it was taking water away from the brush. Not quite as nice of a performing slurry as some of the better soaps, but like I said, in certain areas of the world, this is a very low-cost option. And so we shouldn't have the same standards. I think somebody, if my mind is remembering correctly, might have told me that maybe for €2 or something, you can get this Proraso tub. A lot of the, I don't know what you guys call them, pharmacies or whatever, is where you can get shaving products. There we go. Second pass, quick and easy. And yes, the feather is terrific in this razor. And that's not even a new feather razor blade. This is its 11th or 12th use. So, here we go again. The brush needs a little bit more water, but it doesn't have a lot of soap, and so if I dip the tips into a lot of water, it will just wash out what's on my face. That looks very usable. And so, yeah, again, we just have a loading issue, I think. I could use a 1/4 teaspoon scoop and scoop some out and press it into the bottom of the bowl next time. But then, of course, I kind of have to use that as a bowl lather, and so then it's not really a slurry. Man, yeah, and sure enough, this polymer there, even when wet, even when my hands are wet, makes it so easy to hold on to the razor handle. It feels like it's dry, even when it's not. I do feel a little bit, this is not a smooth shave. I do feel a little bit of tenderness here, as if to say, be cautious, don't overshave. This is a sharp blade, and there is enough exposure to give you some irritation or even a cut if you are unwise. It's got a little warning kind of built into the feeling of it. At least with this razor, it does. And there we go, a good shave. No residual slickness now, because as you could probably notice that the little bit of lather I had on there was a little drier than, optimally it should have been, and so that does affect the secondary slickness. Because the tips here aren't really treated as a Silvertip brush, the bristles don't absorb as much water as the Finest Badger tips do, the ones that are treated, the ones that get jelly, if you will, or almost jelly. And so this doesn't have to stay in the water as a pre-soak for as long. Just a few minutes is just fine. And some people even just run it under the water right before they shave and don't really pre-soak their brush at all. And with a Silvertip especially, I could see that happening. The tips, because they are natural, they will soften over time with just lots and lots of uses. It's a very slow process. But yeah, see, look, you can tell the ease of splay of this. And this is just the BK8. There are larger Kent brushes. A lot of people think this is too floppy. But for me, luxury. I enjoy it. We got a good rinse during the break there. I'm going to break open the Wilkinson sword razor and give it a good rinse. We did dip the tips in the water, but that was water that was from the brush. I did not add water from the tap to contribute to today's shave. So this brush obviously was able to hold enough water in the beginning. I really want to use this brush another time when I get a better load. I guess next time I could just load for longer, you know, with this guy. One thing I could do as I wait, as I want this guy to expand, if I know that I've left some moisture over these last two times inside there next adjacent to the soap, then I guess I could not necessarily use it every day until it expands enough. I could do it every other day or something like that and give the moisture that I've put in these last 2 days more time to work its way into the soap and expand. And so maybe a couple of the other soaps that I showed to you the other day, like the Cella Buongiorno al Sandalo or the Wickham 1912 vegan soap, Russian Leather, maybe I can bring those to you guys next time. Probably I've used the Wickham base many times before, and I've used the Russian Leather. I enjoy that. So that's not a mystery. That's an enjoyment. That's making sure that base works with the slurry lather method is what we're going to do. But the Cella, I have not tried this, and oh man, the weight of this is great. The tin here, it's not going to travel super well because anytime it dents, it will be a permanent dent. And so this is one to sit on your counter at home and wait for you to use it. So yeah, I like my rubber band modification for that handle, but I will have to look at other handles that I have to maybe see if I want to rehome that knot. In which case I'll have to break it off of the brush knot, break the handle off of the brush knot to use that beautiful Silvertip in another type of handle. Post shave. Yes, we have sandalwood going on. That was terrific with the Tuscany. Let's do Burgundy. It's one created by Stirling, based off of something popular like, Scarn, I think is Dior Sauvage or something like that. But Burgundy was some other popular cologne type dupe from Stirling, and I can't remember exactly which one it was. But this is a balm that is not one that I have had for a very long time, because it's just been a couple of years now that they put it out, and so I know it's going to be nice. Some of my older ones, like the Tuscany, I'm concerned that they're going to age before I can use them up. But yesterday's Tuscany worked well. Not very strong of a scent here, maybe because of the sandalwood from the soap. I'm not really sure. I have been drinking a lot of coffee today, and so maybe my nose is kind of used to stronger stuff. There we go. I got a little bit of it there, but yeah, that's kind of... balms are not going to provide as strong of a scent as an alcohol-based splash, because the way the fragrance and the alcohol evaporates with this, I think it's going to be more present, more around you, kind of as a cloud of scent than with the balm. But of course, the balm has the benefit nurturing your skin, keeping your skin looking great for many years, that kind of benefit. So, excellent. I think that's it for today. Wonderful shave with the sticky and the feather. It did create just a tiny bit of irritation, and so I don't think the sticky is the best user of the feather. Yesterday's 46 gap Wolfman WR1 was better. I didn't walk away, didn't have any sense of tenderness, and this is just a tiny bit of tenderness. The balm is probably going to fix it in a matter of 15 minutes or so. So I expect that not to be an issue. But the Wilkinson sword probably likes the more normal blades instead of the ultra edgy ones like a feather. So there we go. I think that's all. Thanks so much for watching. My friend Fred chimed in with a comment to one of my older videos about a Gillette vintage new long comb just before this shave was recorded here. And he talked about how the long comb is a vintage razor that's 3 pieces, and so it connects up here to the head and then with the handle, and it's very common for those to split down the middle, and a lot of times the split would be stable. It would still have plenty of grip on the end pieces, like for the ball ends and stuff. And so then sometimes the split just didn't affect the user too much, but sometimes it does and it comes apart. Well, he went out and bought some brass tubing, pretty cool, and made himself, and he was of course able to make it for whatever length he wanted. And one neat thing you can do with that, with my carve handle, I set it at 3.25. The 3.5 was a little too long for me. But one thing the handle does is you don't necessarily want more leverage. I like to hold the razor in a central point so that it can act as kind of as a shock absorber to go over the surface of my skin instead of pushing through bumps and causing irritation. But what the longer handle can do is, instead of using it to have a firm grip so that you don't change angle, that's not why I personally like a long grip. It changes the center of balance. And so if a razor has a center of balance right here, the sticky does not. If a lot of them do have a center of balance that's higher than my normal grip place. But if I have a longer handle, it moves the center of gravity a little farther toward the end of the handle down here. And sometimes that puts it exactly where I want it. And so I never really use the length as an extra gripping part, but I use it as ballast to have the razor be in a good point. Now the sticky, because this the head actually is metal, of course, as you can see, and so it has weight right there. But one nice thing about the sticky, in addition to its texture of being grippy, is that polymer is lighter than metal, logically speaking. And so you have metal here, and then the polymer in the middle. And so the balance point is right around there, right where I tend to hold it, maybe a little higher than I tend to hold it, but it's so close that it makes it effortless to use and move around. So terrific. Another part of a great design. So there we go. Fred, have fun with that new long comb. My favorite is the new short comb because it has a better grip of the blade right toward the edge of the blade. But the long combs are really nice too, and they're so cheap. There's so many out there to be had on eBay. All right, my friends, take care now. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.